Well, here we go. We are live again. And as I pull up my notes, oh, you don't want to be the studious looking type. You did this.
Well, no, I'm looking at you now. I'm not reading right now. So I'm looking
Well,
at
I'm as blind as a bat. I have to do this regardless. So, and folks watching this, you see, this is the unedited version. So,
yes.
Well, let me start by thanking you for coming back. I am sure that it's been a wild time, even just within the last time we spoke, interviewed, and today.
Mhm.
So, but before we get into the craziness, one of the things that I've never been to the farmer's market. And so, but I had found out you were there.
Yes.
And I was thinking, oh, okay, well, yeah, she's going out there buying fruits and vegetables. Okay. I didn't know then that you actually set up a station, whatever you call it. So I'm assuming some of your colleagues and or opponents do the same thing. But like I said, I'm not there. So this is going to be a two-part question. One, have other people taken advantage of the fact that the best way to find out about Brentwood is to go to the farmer's market? And two, what has your experience been with respect to you interacting with the folks you'll be representing soon? Because I gotta be right with one of you. And what would you recommend to maybe not the people you're running against, but to other folks who are running, what they should, could, maybe aren't doing?
Yeah. So yeah, your first question is who's been there. And full disclosure, I started going to the farmer's market during Measure L. And I learned that from Kathy Griffin. Like we were there every single weekend, explaining to people what Measure L meant from a resident perspective, why we didn't want it. So it was easy for me to do because I did it last year, all during that campaign. So who's been there? Claudette has been there. Ryan Raimondi's there. He shows up, every Saturday, sorry. Andrani showed up a couple of times. Shuck showed up this time. He's been there once, but that's it. Like no other candidates that I have seen. Maybe they were there and I didn't see them, but I haven't seen any other candidates from council. Stephanie was there and Blythe was there this weekend. Twee, she goes also from Brentwood Unified. She's running for Brentwood Unified. Twee's there. She's been there almost every Saturday. Tamala's there, Dr. Tamala. She's there almost every Saturday. So that's the people, and I would have loved to have other people from my district show up because I think it would have been good just for us to chat. And what do you think you can learn? You learn what people really want and what they look for you as a council person. I get asked a lot of questions. And a lot of them come up to me because they've seen me online for a couple of years. And this weekend, yesterday was Saturday. A guy ran up. He's like, I just want to tell you, I love your post. I love the data. I love the analytics. Keep doing it and give me more. Cause I live for it. So and then, online, some people are like, oh, we don't like it. Right. So it's interesting. You do get two polarizing people, but I haven't had anyone come up and be mean at all. Most people have been so nice. And, actually, let me back up. He wasn't mean. There was a gentleman and his wife. He moved here from Houston. He works at the refinery. So the first time I saw him, he's like, I don't think I want to vote for you because I work at the Martinez refinery and that'll impact my job. And he got something in the mail from me that week. Not specifically to him, but, in the mail, things that went out. And he came back the next week and he said, we got your piece of mail. My wife and I sat down. We went on your website. We went on your Facebook page. We read your forum. We went through Facebook and read everything you did. And he's all, although you might impact my job a bit, he's like, you do way more good than that one piece of bad for me. And even me being in the refinery now that I know exactly where those wells are, I wouldn't want them near my homes either. So I was the only one, but then he switched and he said him and his wife were voting for me.
Well, that's great.
So,
That's great. And see, that's the whole thing. That's why I like what I do when I speak with you or Karen um, or Joel or, anyone right now.
anybody.
Yeah, I get a chance, and through me, the other 4 or 5 people watching get a chance to really know you. Now it's interesting. You talked about stats. I'm a stat guy. And I know a lot of times people will just nod off when you start dropping numbers. But the great thing about facts is they are what they are: good, bad, or indifferent. And so, and I know, and I'm not trying to get into a mudslinging contest or even have you get into a mudslinging contest.
Yes.
But that being said, the facts are out there. And so talk to me about some of the stats that you have dug up, whether it's, in your favor or maybe not in your favor, because it's the city as a whole that's going to be affected by this.
You're talking about the drilling?
The what?
Or you're talking about the oil drilling?
I'm talking about everything. I figured you have stats for everything. So
hold on. I'm going to tell my husband to keep it down. See, this is live. Hold on 1 second. He's like talking to someone on the phone.
Okay. And folks, this is the unedited version.
Okay, I'm back.
There she is. All right. Well, okay. I'll stop talking about you then.
No, it was quick. Okay. So when it comes to about stats, we're 80% at build out. And I think, that could be scary to some if you've been dependent on developer fees to fund your city. I can understand that. But we're at 80% build out. So we have very, very little land left in Brentwood to build on homes. And maybe back in the day, we wanted people to come out here and we wanted to become attractive to the builder. But the tables have turned. We're the hot date now, right? Like we are the hot commodity, and we should be doing everything to make sure that the product we get is exactly what the residents want, right? And not what the city wants, not what the planning commission wants, but the people who invested time and money to move here. That's who we should be listening to. Another stat, 3 oil and gas drills, 1,000 feet from people's homes. And we know, and I don't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but low birth weight when women are pregnant around oil and gas drills, higher instances of respiratory issues when they're around oil and gas drills. That's why Richmond and out that area has some of the highest COVID cases, because they have compromised immune systems. I don't want that happening here. Some more stats. Let me think. I'm trying to think of stats.
Well, I'll tell you what. Let me throw a couple out there. Not stats, but your information that you have. Oh, and as a side note, you're right about the oil rigs and the refinery. Personally, I just think they're butt ugly, and but that's just me. But let's talk about. Well, let's just talk about the seat you're running for. Sure. Claudette's record is Claudette's record.
Yes.
You have stats on Claudette's record.
Yes.
Illuminate me on those stats.
Yeah. So there's a couple of reasons why I decided to run. What Claudette has done when on council was one of the biggest catalysts for me to decide to run. A couple of things. Goodwill came out, and they wanted to do a Goodwill project. I don't know if you remember that. And it was going to be near homes, and it was going to be light industrial. They were going to be doing a lot of processing, bringing in big trucks, all that good stuff. Claudette wanted to not vote, recuse herself, right? And during the meeting, it was explained to her how it works, and she did not recuse herself. But that was the first time where I think I was like, I need someone who wants to represent me and not shy away from a difficult vote. And I think for some reason that was going to be a difficult vote for her.
Oh, let me stop you. Let me stop you because that's interesting. When it comes to recusal, I really don't know much about it other than what the word means, and not trying to. You explained why the explanation was needed to not recuse. It's after 6. I apologize. It's after 6, okay, folks. But would you have recused you? Oh no, let me rephrase before we get back into stats. Can you think of anything where you would have to say, I, as a sitting member of the council, I will have to recuse myself?
No, I can't think of anything to date that I've seen happen, but also my personality is one that I will go down fighting to not have to recuse myself, especially because we're in districts now, right? So if you're a District 1 council person and you recuse yourself, you've taken the voice away of almost 3,500 households of people who will not be represented. So I can't think of anything I would recuse myself. And if the city attorney came to me like, you got to recuse yourself, and I'd be like, I would want to research every single avenue to not have to do so. Okay. But the second one she recused herself on was, there was an Amber Lane apartment complex. And she recused herself, if I remember correctly. Her husband manages a property not far from where the apartments were going to be. And she used that reason. Well, she didn't have to, she chose to. And the other interesting thing to me is when I decided to run, I had to file paperwork, and any money my husband made, we had to report it as part of, like, my husband, his employer's in Brentwood. He makes money from Brentwood. We had to talk about that. I looked through her paperwork and I didn't find any information for her spouse and that he works in Brentwood. So maybe it did happen, but I don't think she had to recuse herself. I think she chose to recuse herself. And I'll get to why I think she chose to. I don't think she had to. And the third time she's done it now is Bridal Gate. Now I have the letter from, and this is Freedom of Information Act. Anyone can ask for this letter. So it's out there. You can just email the city clerk and they'll send it to you. Okay. So the first thing is, it says that, the person who wrote the opinion says, any advice we provide assumes your facts are complete and accurate. And that's where I think my issue is. I feel like one of her points is inaccurate. She says, owns real estate property less than 1,000 feet from the project site. So when you go through this whole letter, she states she lives, I think it's 700 and something feet from the parcel. So I was like, well, parcel is north, that's 700 feet, but the actual project that we're talking about goes to the east, a little bit north above St. Regis. And I use the city map to map a line, a direct line, because you can do that online. And she's 1,044 feet. And I feel like I'm being conservative. I think it's probably a little bit more, but 1,044 feet. So I emailed the gentleman who wrote, Mr. Brainbridge, who wrote this opinion. And he said that the general rule of, and I'm reading this, distance is from one property line to the other property line using the two closest points. So when I talked to him again, the property was farther. She went north straight to parcel. So, but again, he said, anyone can choose to recuse themselves for any reason, right? I don't like that. Especially because we're going to be districts. I don't want to ever give up the voice of the people who voted for me. So those are three instances where I was let down. And I'll be honest, I voted for Claudette. I voted for her. Mm-hmm. And she's nice. Like, I met her and I was like, okay, like, she's new. She's been on 2 years because of something happened. And so I was really sad and disappointed to see all of this. And this is recusal subject. And then the subject on oil and gas drillings came up, and on the county property, which is 1,000 feet from homes in Brentwood Hills. The closest home is her next door neighbor. She is the second closest home to the oil and gas drilling project.
Okay.
And so I found out about it. I communicated to the, people around town about it. People wanted to get together. I said, okay, well, why don't I have a Zoom? So I scheduled a Zoom, and we got on a call, and she was on the call and never said one thing, like not one. She's on council. I would expect for her to be able to help me. And that she's not bound by the Brown Act in this case, because it is not within city limits. It is outside of city limits. So she could have raised holy heck like I did and been alongside me, because she works for the city. Like, she has all this expertise from working in the city, and she didn't do that. So we got off the call. I offered to start a Facebook page. So I started the Facebook page, and now has, I think, over 780 people. The county has told me that they got more emails on this one subject than anything else they've ever gotten. So I'm really proud of the work I did. And because I know how hard I worked, I feel let down, because I expect that to come from my council person. I expect her to lead that charge.
Right.
And then the third thing, and I also have an email from the city manager. I was at a city council meeting, and I try to go in person, and I have a friend who always watches from home. And I was sitting at a meeting, and I remember specifically the subject. It was about a budget approval for drones for the Brentwood Police Department. And I'm sitting there in the meeting, and my friend goes, hey, like, he texted me, the video went down. And I'm like, I'm not AV. I don't know what to tell you. I can't manage that. So I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden her husband and two friends sit in front of me. And I'm sitting directly behind her husband. I can see his phone. I saw her friend's phone that had, her friend confirmed the phone number with her husband, which had her business name. It didn't have Staten. It had her business name. So that's how closely I could see their phones right in front of me. And they were emailing her what to say during the session. In my opinion, I believe that that's what happened. I asked for a Freedom of Information Act on the text, and what I got in return was they were medical in nature. I read the text. I know it was not medical in nature.
Yeah. Wow.
So those are the big, I don't know if they're stats, but that's what drove me to run for council. I feel like we need representation that's going to be fully transparent and honest. I think people know me. I'm pretty honest. I say what I want to say. I respect people's opinions. Someone said, well, what happens when someone doesn't agree with you? I'm like, I love it when people don't agree with me, because that creates dialogue, and it lets me know, it gives me more information. Right. Mm-hmm. So, so that's kind of, some stats on that. I don't know if that's what you were talking about.
Well, I'm just talking about in general, because as I said from the beginning, I was woefully ignorant of the inner workings of Brentwood. I was that guy, check the box. Oh, this name's familiar, check the box. Or, I honestly, the last time around, I wrote my name in at the bottom. Yeah, honestly, because I figured, okay, if I write my name in, maybe that will actually put me in there, because I still don't know how, because I was thinking about it because of Measure L. So it seems like Measure L is ground zero for everything everyone does here. So,
I think it went before that, right? We had the funny thing is, you get your letter by lottery.
Right.
We had a Measure L in, I think, 2005, then Measure F in 2010, then rezone, then Measure L. So it's been like this buildup. Measure L was when I think, like, we were done,
Oh no, I agree. As a matter of fact, that's in my first foray in the next store, where I posted a video asking people to vote. No, excuse me, I have the hiccups. Live, folks. But anyway,
I know.
The reason I was against it was primarily, wait a minute, didn't we just vote on this before? And didn't we just vote on that before? It was, you change a noun and a verb, but it's basically the same thing that failed these previous times. So
it's moving the urban limit line.
right. And so that's short history lesson. But no, but that goes into again, not trying to disparage anyone. And to be honest, I wish Claudette or whoever speaks with Claudette, I wish they would encourage her to come on. This is open to everybody, as you know.
Well, you know what? I wish we were in regular times when we could do town halls and forums, because I would love the chance to say it, like have her explain it to me when I'm sitting there, right? I wouldn't shy. I mean, I was in speech and debate. I was in my business club. I don't shy away from a debate. So it's like, I would do it in person in a second if you want to hold a debate or a forum.
Right. Well, that was the October 8th thing. Although I think that was just mayor, right? That
was just mayor. Yeah.
Okay.
But I think that voters need to understand what differentiates us. And it's hard to do that during COVID, right? Like what makes me different from each of the people that I'm running against? And not saying anyone is bad. That's not the case, but I have expectations from my leadership and I didn't see it in the people that were running. That's all.
And when I found out the salary versus the amount of work that you would have to put in, it's wow. I applaud you. I really do. But going back to the analytics part, I mean, I did some digging, but not really a lot. Between Nextdoor and Facebook, when I've seen something, it's like, okay, well, because I don't want to just go with whatever's said on screen. Oh yeah, that must be true because it's but this now goes to Joel from the standpoint we talked about campaign monies. And like I said, hey, God bless you if you can write out a check for XYZ amount of dollars, and if you're willing to accept it, okay. But I say that to say this: when Joel had mentioned how the money raised usually helps the people running and not the incumbents, I didn't see it. And so I wasn't calling them out on it. Like I told them, I don't see it, because the monies I see, there are big dollar amounts that go to incumbents. And so
and if that's the case, why did Sino give 5,000 to Indrani, right?
That is the question that's out there.
She's a new candidate.
Well, no, I'm writing down. It would be nice to hear her side as well, because I don't know. I'm still. I go back to the whole farmers market thing. I don't know why every candidate doesn't go down there and virtually press the flesh. I mean, you can't go shake hands and kiss babies right now.
Yeah.
But why can't you just? I mean, even if you're standing in the crowd, just standing there, hoping people will recognize you and come up or whatever. I mean, that's better than not being there at all, I would think.
Yeah.
So, but that's why I brought it up. And again, because you're running against 3 other people, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I think it's fair that everyone would like to know how, if they don't have a record, how are they going to make a difference? And if they do have a record, how does their record reflect what may be a different point of view, or a different, I didn't really mean this, I meant that.
And I think I'm pretty clear with Claudette. Number one, I will do everything to represent the people in my district and not recuse myself. I mean, we could figure out Freedom of Information Act, who initiated the conversation about recusal. That would be interesting, right? But that's okay. I'm too busy to do that right now. Yeah. But so number one, that's the difference between her and I. I've met Brian. I met Brian during the Measure L campaign at the farmer's market. Brian Swisher. He's a nice guy. He's a nice guy. His family was super nice. My concern, where we don't agree, is that Brian Swisher is very adamant. Well, I wouldn't say adamant. He's very supportive of moving the urban limit line. And the reason I say that is that if you go back to 2005 Measure L, 2010, I think it was 2010 Measure F, and then 2019 Measure L, you can see the signatures of people in the community who supported that ballot measure, and he is on all three. So I like him. And if he wasn't adamant about moving the urban limit line, like, then I would look into everything else. But that's like a big no, because, I say I'm smart growth. Again, smart growth means different things for different people. To me, we've got to take care of what we have in here before we ever think about moving the urban limit line. And we've got a lot of issues right now we've got to take care of. And then, and I'm going to be honest, I don't know anything about Faye Maloney. She's a police officer. She was, she had an interview. She was abducted, which I think I heard her story and it's heart wrenching. She was abducted, parental abduction by her father, taken to a different country. I'm listening to her interview and I feel for her. Like if I was the daughter, oh my gosh. And then I think of it from a mom perspective. If I was a mom, like I would be Sally Fields, like all day long. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a reference to Not Without My Daughter.
Yeah.
So, I'm sure she's a nice person too. I just don't know anything about her. I searched to see if she ever made comments at a city council meeting, to see if she was involved in any Brentwood issues. I couldn't find anything. So I'm like, it's hard for me to not, to feel like, okay, you can do the job, but I don't know where you stand on anything. And you haven't exhibited how you'll support the community yet from a community. She does a lot of stuff outside of Brentwood, right, but I want to know what you're going to do for Brentwood.
Right.
So, I just wish we could have forums, because it would be easier to speak to each other. I think we would find common ground, but also really make those points of differentiation very clear.
No, and I agree. And I actually have a little thing that says I'm running out of time. I have 10 minutes. So, but okay. I have not seen that clock. Oh, Zoom trying to get my money. But anyway, and that's the dilemma. You're running against these people, and you're explaining to me why you feel bad for them. Yeah, where other people would probably, go like this and say, well, look, I really don't know much about this person. I really, this person supported Measure L. This person got, CINO money or fill in the blank money.
Claudette did get CINO money last year.
Well, see, now that's the first time I seen you ever even come close. But
she did. She took $5,000 the last election. So we'll see what comes up in the next financial report.
And I hope that she takes advantage. All three of the people take advantage. And again, not talk to me. I don't care if I just want to know something other than what I see on Facebook or on their own www. But my point though is that you are running against these people and you're trying to find a positive spin, like with Faye. I really wish I knew more about you, where you could just say, hey, no one knows anything about you, but you were a cop in a very sad story. And the same thing with Brian, where, you wrote in for whatever you want to call the alphabet, but basically, changing the landscape of Brentwood. I'd like to hear your side. And when I say we, I mean the city. But you are a nice person. And so despite rumors to the contrary and what I've read on Nextdoor and Facebook, you are a nice person. You're dedicated to this city.
Oh, now like that choked me up.
Oh, well.
I really am. I do love my city. I really do.
Right. And that's, I'm still trying to be impartial, folks. It's just that when I see someone who is looking to really make a difference, and in all honesty, with everyone I spoke to, it seems like everyone has the same, maybe why they're doing something maybe a little bit different, but it seems like everyone is looking out for Brentwood. So, but especially when someone brings out stats, yeah, as a matter of fact, when you see the interview I had with Stephanie, she had stats, and I was like, oh, wow, cool. Probably the other people watching this have already tuned out, but
Yeah.
Stats don't lie. There's
Nope.
another half of that, but stats don't lie. Okay, well, is there? Well, let's do this as a final question. It's been interesting since the first time we spoke and tonight. What are your thoughts? What have you discovered? What nuggets have you discovered about things in the last week after week?
I know people are nice. People are so nice. Like, people in Brentwood are kind and they are thankful, and that encourages me to keep doing. No matter where the chips fall, I'll always keep doing what I'm doing, and it's nice that people appreciate it. So that's nice. I find that everyone's moral compass is different, and that's a little bit weird, right? Like, that's what I might feel is just not right. Other people feel are right. And, I go in hard. I mean, you probably know what I'm talking about. I go in hard, but it's because that's how passionate I feel about transparency and representing the people versus special interest. And I don't want to see Brentwood everyone gets along in Brentwood for the most part, from what I see, regardless of party, race. We all get along. I see it at the farmers market. I don't want to see us get tainted with that special interest money and all of that. I want to keep it. So it's just solidified how I feel about Brentwood and the people that live here. This campaign, they're good people, and they really care about their town, and they just want to be listened to, and they want to be represented.
And on that note, with a few minutes left, I'm looking at the clock. I'm actually getting counted down, but thank you again. I really do appreciate your time. I appreciate your energy, and what I've read on various, because I still haven't gone to your website. I couldn't tell you anything about it. The only things I've read on anybody has been whatever I saw on social media. So, and I hope that keeps my opinions. Well, I'm trying not even to have opinions. I'm just trying to figure out who I want to vote for in November. So thank you very much. I really do appreciate your time.
No problem. Thank you.
Okay, and I'm getting ready to hit the stop button right